One of the wonders of the world has been shut down to visitors. The Peruvian government forced to close Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu is one of the most breathtaking and well-preserved wonders of the world. It draws over 1.5 million visitors every year, making it one of the most captured and admired places on Earth. For years, we were told Machu Picchu was a royal estate built around 1450 by the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, a sacred retreat, carefully hidden from the Spanish. But recently, researchers uncovered something completely unexpected. Beneath those famous terraces lies an engineering system so advanced that modern civil engineers call it one of the most sophisticated water management networks ever created. And that's not all. Chambers and structures, untouched for hundreds of years, have revealed gold, silver, and mysterious artifacts that are forcing us to question everything we thought we knew about Machu Picchu. But how did the Incas create something so advanced with tools that, on paper, seem almost too simple for the task? Let's dive in. Architecture under terraces. Machu Picchu is one of the 7 wonders of the world. That alone tells you how extraordinary it is. But what makes this place different from other wonders is its beauty and the impossible way it exists. This entire stone city is situated nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, perched on a narrow ridge in the Andes of southern Peru. But no matter where you stand, one feature dominates the view: the terraces. Hundreds of stone terraces wrap around the mountain, stepping downward in clean, precise lines. They are the most visible and defining part of Machu Picchu. For decades, we were told they were built mainly for farming. The Inca needed flat land, so they carved it out of the slope. That idea made sense, and most people accepted it without question. But that understanding no longer holds. Between 2024 and early 2026, teams working with Peru's Ministry of Culture, along with researchers and engineers from Japan, Europe, and the United States, applied non-invasive technologies to the site. Ground-penetrating radar traced structures hidden beneath the surface. LiDAR and high-resolution 3D scanning mapped the mountain in detail, which had never been possible before. And what they discovered was not a minor detail. Nearly 60% of Machu Picchu is underground. Beneath the terraces, researchers found deep foundation systems built in repeating layers, large stones at the base for strength. Above them, gravel and broken rock, then sand. Only at the very top does soil appear. This pattern repeats across the entire slope, terrace after terrace, forming one connected system. This is not how simple agricultural land is built. It looks more like the unseen framework of a modern structure, designed to keep an entire mountainside stable. That single discovery answered the old question of what lay beneath the terraces, but it also raised many new ones. And before researchers could even begin to explore those questions, another finding emerged: something built inside this hidden structure itself. Something that showed the terraces were not designed only to hold crops. They were built to manage something far more powerful: the impossible water system. What the terraces revealed raised a serious problem. If most of Machu Picchu was built on layered stone and loose material, then water should have been its biggest enemy. Because this region is one of the wettest places on Earth. Every year, it receives heavy seasonal rainfall. On a steep mountain ridge, that usually means erosion, collapsing soil, and landslides. Cities built in places like this don't last centuries. So researchers asked a simple question: how did this one survive? And the answer was not on the surface. Modern surveys showed that nearly every plaza and building foundation sits on a thick subsurface drainage bed made of crushed stone and rock chips. Water doesn't pool, it drops straight down, pulled by gravity, before it can weaken the ground. This sits under the city like a permanent safety layer. And crucially, it was built before the visible structures. Drainage came first. Architecture came later. The terraces followed the same logic. Each one was built in 4 layers, large stones at the base, then gravel, then sand, and only then soil. Rainwater moves downward smoothly while the slope stays locked in place. On inclines close to 50%, this design shouldn't work, yet it does, which tells us the builders understood how water behaves inside a mountain, not just on it. But removing water from the soil wasn't enough. It also had to be directed. Researchers counted more than 129 drainage outlets carved into walls and stairways across the site. Roof runoff, plaza water, footpath flow, all of it was guided through fixed stone channels. And you know what's surprising? Parts of this system still work today. By this point, one thing became clear. They weren't just managing water, they were managing forces, and water was only one of them. Seismic-resistant design. Now here's where the story becomes even more serious. Because even after solving the water, Machu Picchu still faced a much larger threat. This region of the Andes experiences frequent earthquakes. Stone cities in places like this usually don't survive long. They crack, shift, and slowly collapse. Machu Picchu didn't. So researchers stopped asking where it was built and began asking how it was built. And the answers were written directly into the stone. The walls are made using ashlar masonry, stones cut so precisely that no mortar was needed to hold them together. This wasn't just about skill or appearance. Mortar makes structures rigid. When the ground shakes, rigid structures resist movement, and that resistance causes fractures. These walls were designed to behave differently. During an earthquake, the stones move slightly against each other. The movement is small, controlled, and temporary. Once the shaking ends, the weight of the stones pulls them back into alignment. Modern earthquake-resistant buildings use similar principles through steel joints and shock absorbers. Here, the same effect was achieved with stone alone. What makes this even more effective is the shape of the stones. Many are multi-sided, locking into neighboring blocks from several directions. This three-dimensional interlocking makes it difficult for any single stone to be forced out during strong shaking. It's a method very different from monuments like the Pyramids of Giza, which rely mainly on mass and weight rather than flexibility. The terraces also play a role here. Their deep, layered foundations help absorb vibrations and stabilize the slopes during seismic events, effectively tying the city and the mountain together. Recent geological research added the final piece. The city was built directly on solid granite bedrock. This choice reduces the strength of seismic waves before they reach the structures above. Taken together, this was not an accidental design. It was a complete seismic strategy. And it leaves behind a difficult question, because achieving this level of precision requires more than ideas. It requires tools and capabilities that don't easily fit the time period. Tool and capability paradox. Here's something that truly stops you in your tracks. The terraces, the drainage, the seismic design, all of it works perfectly. Yet, the Inca didn't have the tools you might expect for this kind of engineering. No iron, no steel, no wheel, not even a written language to pass down blueprints. And still, somehow, they created perfection. Researchers call this the paradox, because after all, how could a civilization with what looks like a primitive toolkit achieve results that even today would challenge skilled engineers? Let's break it down. First, the tools themselves. The masons' main instruments were simple hammerstones, known locally as hijuanas, made of harder rocks like basalt or hematite. They didn't cut stone in the way we think of it. They chipped, pecked, and gradually shaped enormous blocks of andesite over months of careful labor. For finer work, they developed bronze chisels, arsenical bronze, hardened up to 4 times stronger than raw copper. Enough, apparently, to refine edges on rocks that could weigh dozens of tons. Then there were the wooden wedges. This is where their cleverness really shows. To get huge stones out of the quarries, the Inca cut deep grooves into the rock, put dry wooden wedges inside, and then soaked them with water. The wood swelled and slowly split the rock apart. What a perfect use of physics, before physics was even a thing. But the real paradox is in the results. Stones were lifted, lowered, and maneuvered repeatedly until seams were perfect. We're talking millimeter precision that has lasted over 500 years. Some gaps are so tight, you cannot slide a knife blade between them. And all of this without cranes, pulleys, or even a wheel. Even more astonishing is what they achieved purely through observation and experience. They applied principles today called seismic isolation and the Venturi effect, without formulas, without calculations, just by watching water, testing angles, and learning from trial and error. Now, the thing is, all of this mastery created a new problem. If they could shape, fit, and stabilize these stones so precisely, how on earth did they move them across the steep Andes? That question leads straight to another staggering puzzle: the movement of massive blocks up the mountain. And it's even more mind-boggling than the stones themselves. The question of transport. Even after you understand the stones, the terraces, and the water systems, one question keeps coming back. How on earth did they get these massive blocks up the mountain? And when I say massive, I mean huge. Some stones at Machu Picchu weigh up to 55 tons. At other sites like Sacsayhuaman, they moved stones weighing over 200 tons. And yet, the Incas did it without wheels, without oxen, without any of the machines we assume are necessary. So how did they do it? The answer lies in a combination of physics, clever tools, and an astonishing social system. First, the ramps. The Incas built massive earthen ramps alongside terraces, carefully angled so stones could be dragged upward without tipping. Level sections used wooden rollers, and for steeper slopes, sledges provided a stable base. Even the ground itself was part of the system. Wet clay or water was added to reduce friction, making it possible to slide enormous rocks with human force alone. Then came the precision work. Moving a stone is one thing, placing it perfectly is another. Masons used long wooden beams as levers, pivoting stones into their exact positions. Some stones still show tiny knobs or nubs, likely handles for these levers before being removed after placement. They lifted and lowered blocks multiple times, using stone dust as a guide. Where the dust compressed most, they knew to grind a bit more. It's trial and error, on a scale that would overwhelm most modern construction crews. And the real secret? People. The MITA system allowed the state to mobilize thousands of laborers at once. Teams of hundreds pulled in unison using braided fiber ropes, synchronizing their effort like a single human-powered engine. Location also mattered. Many of the largest stones were quarried on-site. That might sound simple, but it was crucial. Moving 50-ton blocks, even a few hundred meters down steep, rocky slopes, is far easier than hauling them across miles of jungle. Still, even over short distances, it required skill, planning, and timing. So, when you look at Machu Picchu today, the city's perfection wasn't just in the design. It was in the labor, the planning, and the ingenuity that moved mountains, literally. And now, you must be thinking, with all these discoveries, the mainstream understanding of Machu Picchu should have changed, right? You're exactly right to think so. But before we dive into that, let's take a step back and understand what people actually believed about this place for centuries, and why those ideas are now being challenged. What we thought it was. For decades, the story of Machu Picchu seemed simple. Scholars, textbooks, and even travel guides painted it as a mysterious peak of the Inca Empire, abandoned and hidden for centuries. And for a long time, that explanation seemed enough. Traditionally, historians believed Machu Picchu was built around 1450 AD under Emperor Pachacuti, the 9th Inca ruler. The idea was that it served as a royal estate, a seasonal retreat for the emperor and his nobles, and also as a sacred sanctuary. People imagined sunlit terraces, priests performing rituals, and nobles walking through carefully planned plazas, all guided by celestial patterns. After all, structures like the Intihuatana stone, often called the hitching post of the sun, were believed to track solstices and help organize agricultural cycles. It fit neatly, a city built for power, religion, and the stars. Then came the Spanish conquest. Around 1530, the Incas abandoned the site. Theories tried to explain why. Some said they burned trails to hide the city. Others pointed to smallpox, introduced by Europeans, wiping out large populations before the city could survive. Whatever the cause, Machu Picchu disappeared from the broader historical record. And because the Spanish never found it, the jungle slowly swallowed the terraces, leaving it largely untouched, known only to a few local families who farmed the land. The Western story begins in 1911, with Yale professor and explorer Hiram Bingham. He is often credited with discovering Machu Picchu. But here's the twist. Bingham was actually searching for Vilcabamba, the fabled last Inca stronghold. Local guides, Melchor Arteaga, and a boy named Pablito, led him to the ruins. And even before Bingham arrived, a Peruvian farmer named Agustin Lizarraga had visited and left his name carved into a wall in 1901. So, the discovery wasn't really a discovery at all. From that moment, textbooks celebrated Machu Picchu as a marvel of Inca engineering. Its precise ashlar masonry, the perfectly fitted granite stones, the terraces that survived earthquakes and heavy rains, everything seemed to confirm the old story. It was a place frozen in time, a symbol of Inca skill and wisdom. And now, let's get to the heart of it. With all the discoveries from 2024 and 2025, almost every part of the old story about Machu Picchu has been challenged. And what they're revealing doesn't just add small details, it's changing the whole picture of how the city was built, why it was built, and who actually made it. So, what does this new Machu Picchu really look like? Rewriting Machu Picchu. For decades, historians leaned on Spanish records and said the site was built around 1450 AD under Emperor Pachacuti. That seemed neat and tidy, but new radiocarbon dating of human remains from 2021 to 2025 tells a very different story. The earliest occupation now dates back to around 1420 AD. That means Pachacuti was already rising to power and expanding the empire 2 decades earlier than we thought. Suddenly, the early Inca Empire looks much bigger, faster, and more sophisticated. And if the timeline changes, so does everything built on that story, including our assumptions about who created these terraces and structures. Then there's the people. You've probably heard the old idea that Machu Picchu was a holy nunnery for the virgins of the sun. Early explorers like Hiram Bingham saw mostly female skeletons and assumed a religious purpose. But DNA and skeletal analysis from 2023 to 2026 tell a very different story. The residents came from across the entire empire, the highlands, the coast, even the Amazon. Men, women, children, all living, working, and being buried together. It wasn't a sanctuary, it was a bustling, cosmopolitan hub, a home to specialists and retainers from every corner of the Inca world. And the city itself? Far more than just a collection of terraces and temples. LiDAR and AI-assisted mapping have revealed over 100 hidden structures and extensions of the Inca Trail beneath the jungle. Researchers now describe Machu Picchu as a choreographed ritual landscape, where water systems, terraces, and plazas weren't just practical. They were designed for performance, movement, and ritual. Every layer of discovery peels back the old narrative and reveals a Machu Picchu far more sophisticated, multi-layered, and cosmopolitan than we ever imagined. The Inca weren't the original builders. They inherited, adapted, and perfected what was already there. And that alone changes everything. Now, do you know what the most exciting part of it is? This is far from finished. Every month, new scans, new digs, and new analyses add pieces to the puzzle. So we're left with one big, thrilling question. What else does this wonder of the world still have to reveal? The open mystery. In 2026, the research on Machu Picchu isn't slowing down. It's getting sharper, more precise, and even AI-based. Every drone scan, every LiDAR map, every ground-penetrating radar test seems to uncover something new. And the thing is, the more we try to understand, the more questions appear. Take the residents, for example. Recent DNA studies revealed something shocking. Nearly a third of the permanent population had Amazonian ancestry. Why would people from the jungle live so high up in the Andes? What does that tell us about the Incas' connection to the rainforest and their empire-wide networks? Then there's the city itself. LiDAR has shown a vast network of secondary sites, hidden roads, and structures that no one could see before. Could Machu Picchu really have been just a small part of a much bigger, interconnected urban system waiting silently under the forest canopy? And the diseases. If people were living here decades earlier than previously thought, could European illnesses like smallpox have arrived even before the Spanish? Did these diseases quietly weaken the population and change the course of history long before anyone set foot in the region? These are the open mysteries that keep archaeologists and engineers up at night. Every new scan, every new analysis answers some questions, but it also raises 10 more. It's as if Machu Picchu isn't just a place. You could call it a puzzle that has been challenging humans for centuries. So this was the story of Machu Picchu, from the terraces to the fountains, the seismic walls, and the mysteries still hidden beneath the mountains. If you learned something new, give it a huge thumbs up. And what do you think about those open questions? Drop your theories in the comments below. If you liked this video, ensure you give it a thumbs up. Also consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, because we will be uploading more crazy stories like this one in the coming weeks. Until then, see ya.